right, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons here for a little bit. Look, obviously moving off of Arthur Smith as the head coach, the right move, of course, the way these past few seasons have worked out. And right now, there's some news that has come out that gives an indication of who the Atlanta Falcons are targeting for their next head coach. Let's jump right into the news and we'll talk about it on the other side. This is according to the Bleacher Report. Miles, if you pull it up, I will read from it. If the New England Patriots move on Bill Belichick, the Atlanta Falcons may be waiting in the wings to land the future Hall of Famer. Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano of ESPN, those are actually two legit reporters, these are serious guys, reported that the Falcons have a strong interest in Belichick and that there is traction to the idea of mutual interest. Traction to the idea of mutual interest is kind of an interesting statement, but it does involve Bill Belichick, doesn't say a lot, so that kind of jives there a little bit. Belichick met with Patriots owner Robert Kraft on Monday, and conversation regarding the coach's future are expected to continue in the coming days. The Falcons fired coach Arthur Smith early Monday morning after a third consecutive losing season. Atlanta closed the regular season with 4 losses in its last 5 games and spent most of the last 2 seasons dealing with fans criticizing Smith's usage of the team's emerging offensive stars. All right, so it looks like there is some interest based on the reporting going on. And again, Graziano and Fowler from ESPN, these aren't slouches. These aren't random people on Twitter or random bloggers trying to make a name for themselves. These are legitimate NFL reporters with legitimate contacts. So the fact that there are reports that there is interest, maybe allegedly on both sides, Atlanta and Belichick may have some interest as well, I think gives us some credence. I think there is a chance. I think if Belichick is let go by New England, that he would consider the Atlanta Falcons, because let's be honest, it's a pretty good job. Remove the issues of the quarterback situation aside, you've got talent on both sides of the roster, some veterans, some young. You got a very winnable division in an NFC that, to be very frank, isn't very deep in terms of talent. The San Francisco 49ers are really the only elite team in the NFC. I could see both sides really winning this situation if the Falcons can get a Bill Belichick and if Bill Belichick can come to the Atlanta Falcons. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this move and every potential option for Atlanta. But first, Falcons fans in the comment section below, let us know, who do you want to be the next coach of the Atlanta Falcons? Is it Belichick? Is it someone else? Let us know who you think the Falcons should hire to be their next head coach in the comment section below. And if you like this content and appreciate the work we do supporting the Falcons and all other NFL teams, consider becoming a member of our channel. You can find a link to becoming a member in the description box below. We really appreciate it if you would help us out. But anyway, Mize, give me your thoughts on this news and just everything with Atlanta's coaching search right now.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because it does make sense. This would probably be one of the most talented rosters that Belichick has had in a while as far as talking about
Yeah,
offensive
good point.
weapons. This is a loaded roster. Now, all you got to do is get the quarterback right, which I think Bill Belichick, he's very familiar with good quarterback play. I think he could do a better job than Arthur Smith has so far. But, at the other rate, you talk about the weird wording and just kind of everything. Bill Belichick, he's not going to lead on to what's going on. He's never going to tell you. You're going to ask him, what do you think about Atlanta? And the best you'd get out of him was, well, I've been to Atlanta once or something like that. He's not really going to tell you too much. But and then the other thing, he kind of owes Atlanta after the Super Bowl. So, I mean,
There you
I,
go.
I think this could be a
Poetic
very
justice.
interesting pairing for the city and for Belichick as well. Give himself some redemption in the city of Atlanta. But like you said, if you look at this team, this would be a coach destination for sure. An excellent offensive line, a bevy of offensive weapons, a fairly decent defense. I think there's a lot of pieces here. There's some good veterans. There's some core young guys. We're talking about Grady Jarrett. You got Calais Campbell still. And the linebacker they got from the Saints, Ellis, looks great.
Yeah.
Jesse Bates at safety looks great. So this is a team that I think you could do a lot of great things with, especially a coach as talented as Belichick. And I think that this is a situation where Belichick comes in, you're not in the AFC East anymore. You don't have to battle it out with the Dolphins and the Bills every year. There's a lacking of talent as far as NFC South goes. I don't think it's as tough as a division. So this is a division that you can really kind of come in, reset, and start to dominate once again. I think Falcons would love to dominate the NFC South for years and years to come. So, Nick, I think this really does make a lot of sense, and I could see all of the pros for why Belichick would want to come to the Falcons.
It's one of those weird positions that have opened up this offseason where I feel like any coach would love to come to Atlanta, but at the same time, a lot of coaches would be scared to death just because of the question marks at quarterback position. I think what Belichick as a fit there is so interesting is that he's a guy with his resume and his legacy. He doesn't really need to bet everything on the Atlanta Falcons finding their franchise quarterback because obviously Heineke isn't it. It's likely Ritter is not it as well. So he's not a guy who's coming into a situation. I mean, this is a guy who coached Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi the past 2 seasons, right? And Cam Newton before that, obviously had the great years with Brady. But anyway, so Belichick's a guy who's frankly been used to playing without good quarterback play. He has his legacy behind him. He doesn't have to worry about it so much as maybe some other coaches who would be scared to death to take a job if they didn't know who was going to play quarterback and if they didn't have a top 2 or 3 pick to go out and address it. Here's the other element too. If Bill Belichick goes to Atlanta, what veteran quarterbacks do you think want to join Belichick in Atlanta with that roster, with that talent to make a winning run at it? Because I guarantee you, with competent coaching, this Atlanta Falcons team wins the NFC South this past season. I think that's a guarantee. I think Arthur Smith disappointed pretty much everybody, myself included. I was an Arthur Smith fan, and I was 100% wrong in being a Smith fan. But I think with better coaching, this is a team that wins the NFC South, certainly with better quarterback play. I think Belichick addresses the coaching issue, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to get a veteran guy to come into Atlanta, maybe like a Kirk Cousins, right? Someone like that becomes available who wants to play for a winner, end of their career. It kind of makes sense, right? You have Cousins, wants to do play action, loves having a lot of weapons. That's his kind of best game. That's the Atlanta Falcons talent. Belichick there to manage the defense, lead the defense, and lead, the game time decision making, things like that. That seems like the ideal fit for Atlanta. And I think that's why there's these reports that the Falcons are targeting Belichick. Because if they get a guy like Belichick, then they can bring in the veteran quarterback, and then it's off to the races in the NFC South.
Yeah, and I think one last thing to talk about here is if they don't go free agency for a quarterback, this is an interesting draft to be in Atlanta Falcons position. You got the number 8 overall pick right now. There's a lot of good quarterbacks, a lot of good position players in this draft as well. I think you could easily trade up into the top 5 somewhere and grab somebody who would be very intriguing at the quarterback position as well. Because the first 2 picks, probably Caleb Williams, Drake May, and that third pick is probably Marvin Harrison Jr. if things go the way that people are thinking they're going to. And that 4th and 5th spot, you probably pull a guy like a Jaden Daniels or somebody very interesting quarterback-wise for this Falcons team. So I think that there's a lot of different ways that this could be enticing to a coach at like Belichick, potentially trade up, take a shot at a quarterback, or grab a great free agent quarterback who wants to come and go to a team almost like a Matt Stafford-esque, coming into a team that has a lot of great weapons on it, go make a deep playoff run. I think there's a lot of really good, the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, the really good destination for a coach to come, and what better spot for Bill Belichick to come to the end of his career at is in a place like Atlanta where he can maybe have that one last ride with all the talent that they have.